What's up, wrestling fans? Two Bros Wrestling Show coming at you through the magic that is professional wrestling. Kevin, what's happening?
Another week closer to WrestleMania. I am in my house that AJ Styles built shirt because he is one of the people we are talking about in this episode, Doug. We are going to, as our main event, break down the Hall of Fame ceremony, our favorite memories, our favorite matches, weighing the merits of each of this year's inductees. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you all have opinions. As we go through it, we want to hear what you think about this year's nominees and whether or not you think they're worthy of induction.
News time. Let's do it.
Before we get to that main event, we do have some news to cover in our opening bell segment, and it's really a good place to start. Opening bell is with one of the Hall of Famers we are going to be discussing, as I mentioned, AJ Styles. On his podcast, AJ revealed his current role in WWE. He has been attending independent shows, actively scouting for undiscovered talent.
That's good.
Scouring the internet, he said, looking for matches, drawing on his own experience, grinding it out on the independent circuit to fuel his passion for this new job. So if you're out there working the indies, be on the lookout for the phenomenal one and bring your best stuff,
Obviously.
And as we are in full WrestleMania mode, the news broke this week that this year's host of the granddaddy of them all will be none other than the recently retired John Cena. I think this is probably a good idea, a good use for someone who walked away so recently to have him involved in this year's big broadcast. More WrestleMania news.
Really, what does the host actually do other than a few spots on the ramp? I mean, that's a pretty easy.
You do a couple of spots. You do a couple of spots on the ramp. It's an easy payday. Probably means him being in Vegas for the weekend. Leads some credence to the fact that it could be him inducting AJ Styles to the Hall of Fame the night before. I know that was rumored. I think that would be fitting to get him there to talk about one of his biggest rivals in WWE, at least. So we'll see. You're right. And traditionally, the host hasn't had a ton to do. So light work for John Cena.
Yep.
More WrestleMania news, but if you can't make it to the show in Vegas or aren't watching on ESPN, or heck, if you just want to see it on the biggest screen possible with others, then Fandango, the movie place, not the wrestlers, has the solution for you. Has been the case for a lot of select big events of the past few years. WWE is partnering with Fandango to bring WrestleMania to movie theaters. Go to their website to see if your local theater is one participating, and you can buy tickets there. Doug, we had one mystery resolved for us this week as we move from WWE to AEW. Here's someone who isn't moving from AEW to WWE as many projected. Chris Jericho is back in AEW. He showed up on Dynamite in Winnipeg. Doug, I mean, I don't know what to say about this other than it's money, right? So, yeah, it's money because very likely AEW made the better offer at his age. Maybe Jericho, there's been some rumors that WWE really wanted a farewell tour. Maybe Chris Jericho's not ready to say farewell. Maybe he prefers having creative input over the security and the big audience in WWE. We don't know what the decision is based on, or just how far in conversation WWE actually got with Jericho. But we do know that it's very likely that, at least for the near future, we will not be seeing a Jericho farewell, at least. And when we do see Jericho, it's going to be on Tony Khan's television.
Either that or on tour with Fozzy, because Tony lets him go do that. So maybe that had something to do with it too. Just like Will Ospreay gets to continue living in the Great Britain and just making the jump across the pond, maybe Jericho gets to continue touring with Fozzy whenever he wants to, and just drop off of AEW for months on end. Because he really never did.
I mean, this was his first appearance on AEW television in a year. It was April last year was the last
Yeah.
time he was active, but maybe he still got paid during that time. He was still listed on the active roster.
Always.
Obviously, he has way more leeway in the AEW universe than he does in the WWE universe.
Yep.
Do you think this closes the door on a farewell in
No,
WWE?
what is Jericho, like 55, something like that? So not yet. Not yet. I mean,
And by Ric Flair numbers, that's still mid-career.
right? Young pup or buck, I guess, maybe in this case. I don't know.
I do think that he will eventually get a Hall of Fame induction. He will eventually say goodbye on the biggest stage he can. But him saying that he's home is probably as much Jericho being a consummate professional and showman, and knowing where his bread is which side
Currently
is
buttered. Yeah.
So hey, Chris Jericho stays in AEW, but we do have two AEW departures to talk about. One of which was a departure, and then maybe now not a departure because it was a little more contentious. We'll get to that. The one that we know is more cut and dry, and that is Lady Frost was allowed to have her contract expire. She's been All Elite since 2023, but wrestled spot matches without a contract for years prior to that. It's believed she's going to have significant interest from other promotions. And then there's the case of Willie Mack, who had been wrestling on the ROH brand. And after his release, he took to Twitter to voice his displeasure, saying he's about to become a homeless superhero, in his words, because, quote, the booker doesn't think he's worth the money. Ouch. So apparently Willie was working on a per appearance basis until a couple of years ago when he got signed to a full-time contract, full-time money. However, that was allowed to expire, and thus, just like Lady Frost, he was going to be a free agent. I don't know if it was the squeaky oil gets the grease or what, but now reports are that Willie Mack is back on a per appearance contract basis. So he's not locked up, but he does have one of those. I can't remember what AEW refers to them as, but essentially it's you get paid for the number of times that you're on television. Which may still not work out that well for Willie Mack, because the last time he was on Ring of Honor, not that Doug or I really get to keep up with Ring of Honor, but yeah, it was December, so not exactly rolling in the per appearance cash either.
Maybe AJ will pick him up at an indie show and get him a WWE contract.
Hey Willie, if you're watching, send tape to AJ Styles.
Right.
Doug, you're going to like this next story. Because, and then there were none. Mercedes Moné is now No Belts Moné.
Yes.
It was not a glorious end. Did you hear how she lost her final title?
Didn't she just forfeit and say, I'm done with it?
She vacated it. She sent it back to them, basically. So, yes, the whole gimmick ends with extra postage to get something internationally shipped.
What a whimper to go out on, man.
Well, in her defense, but then this goes back to what we kind of talked about before, is the dubious nature of some of these titles. But apparently she vacated her final title because of the promotion's budget issues. Mercedes sent back the APAC women's title after the promotion was unable to fly her out to Malaysia to defend it. And then she tried to find a solution, she said, but the promotion in Malaysia wasn't willing to work with promotions here in order to facilitate a title switch. So no solution other than to vacate it and send it back. So no belts, Moné.
That is a great opportunity right there. I'm not sending your belt back. You want it, you come get it. That's some great cross promotional like booking that could have happened there. That would have been a great story.
Apparently she even tried to work that story to say that, hey, I'll drop your title here, send somebody over, or we'll work with somebody who you'll. But apparently the organization's budgetary issues were so bad they probably couldn't send anyone either direction right now.
Send them one way.
I mean, it does go to show what you had always complained about with that gimmick, is that some of these titles meant so little, and obviously some of these were from organizations that were underwater or barely making it on a shoestring, so not a lot of prestige when you can't even afford to fly your champion in to defend the title.
And how much money did this little promotion spend to put that belt on her in the first place?
I'm sure it was good
It's
for the night, but probably
yeah,
didn't work out in the
right?
long term, whatever the investment was. Moving on, as we've seen a lot thus far in 2026, there are more behind the scene roles being shifted around in WWE. Uh, Andrea Concepcion took to her LinkedIn profile to announce she is now the senior writer and producer of NXT. Concepcion became, well, actually, she joined WWE as an assistant at age 22, and she is now the head writer and producer of NXT at age, wait for it, 25. That's some upward mobility, my friends.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, right. I'm an assistant at 22. Within 3 years, I am right under the Shawn Michaels learning tree, producing the show, and as the head writer. I don't know if that speaks to the upward mobility or to the chaos that some of the
That's what I'm
creative side.
wondering. Yeah.
In some domino moves, the other two, there were other folks who were promoted to writers on the NXT brand because of some of the vacancies left by the promotion of Concepcion. I'm presuming the two new writers were, I guess these are probably school projects for them. I don't know. I jest. Um, Moving on to some other news, more congratulations. This one to WWE broadcaster Megan Morant, who announced this week that she qualified for the 2028 Olympic trials.
All right.
Morant is a former NCAA Division I athlete who has been a regular marathon participant in these last few years, including running the New York City Marathon just 15 weeks after she donated a kidney to a former boss's wife.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you're donating your kidney to your former boss's wife, you're a pretty good person to begin with, and then to be able to run a marathon after doing so, you're obviously a pretty tough person also. So, good luck to Megan in the Olympic trials.
Either that or you really realized, okay, maybe it wasn't worth it to get this promotion. I'm going to take this other job. You're just second guessing everything.
Well, there's that side of it too, and it does sound like maybe there is no safe position in WWE. So, run, Megan, run.
Wow.
This last news story, Doug, I saved to last because I think this is a good segue into our main event topic. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the main event button as we are here to talk about the class of 2026 and the WWE Hall of Fame. So what we have as far as a news story to bridge us to there is the announcement that came this week of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant that headlined WrestleMania 3 is going to receive the WWE Immortal Moment treatment, and that is the second year that they have had an immortal moment that they have placed a match into the WWE Hall of Fame. Doug, this is a news item, but it also is a good place to start talking about analyzing the worth of some of these things. I am myself not necessarily a huge fan of inducting matches or moments. I think the Hall of Fame is doing just fine as inducting individuals. But if they are going to do this, obviously the main event of WrestleMania 3 deserves the recognition if they're going to do it. You can't argue with the match's place in history itself.
See, I'm in the same place with you. I'm not crazy about this Immortal Moment Award thing, but if you're going to have one, this is it. And I'm not sure why this wasn't the very first one, but it is what it is. And here we are with our, did you say this is the second one? Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense. It fits with the theme. Again, not crazy about it, but
I mean, I am in some ways surprised that this wasn't first. I can't remember. It was Bret Hart, right? Bret Hart and Stone Cold, which again, classic match, but
right.
obviously they're not going in chronological order on these things.
No.
So that being the case, I guess they can do any number of WrestleMania matches at any given time. But yeah, I mean, we all know WrestleMania 3 had a match that actually surpassed this one as far as just the quality of the match. But hopefully they get around to inducting that one day too, if they're going to do it. But the main event the immovable force versus the irresistible force versus the immovable object. The call there by Gorilla Monsoon, the big body slam, the
The
behind the
slam, yep,
scenes.
yep.
Will he or won't he, Andre, do the deed? And so, there's definitely a lot of drama surrounding this match. At the time, it was whatever the number that they kayfabed, but it was
Right.
the
What
largest
is
people that
what
ever
is
saw it. They had it at
93,
92,
93,
93.
93,000 fans, something like that? Yeah.
And
Eh.
that was a record for wrestling that stood until Tony Khan lied about his own attendance. So don't believe these wrestling promoters. But
Nope.
yeah, if you're going to do these matches, Doug, I say that this match is deserving. I certainly am not going to say that just because it wasn't a 5-star classic that the match itself wasn't a big part of all of our childhoods if we
Right,
lived through
right.
those early WrestleManias.
Again, the significance of it, the big deal around. I mean, WrestleMania 3, Hogan, Andre, sure. Again, not crazy about this piece of the Hall of Fame, but it is something new, the Hall of Fame. So I guess more than anything, I'm indifferent about this.
Indifferent's a good one. I like indifferent. I think that's where I land on it too. And heck, while we are at it talking about the controversial aspects of the Hall of Fame, maybe that's a good place to start with our actual human inductees and not match inductees. And that
Mhm.
is from the much maligned celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. Let's just start with that, right? Let's go with Dennis Rodman and his induction into a pro wrestling Hall of Fame. He is already in the NBA Hall of Fame, obviously, for
So,
his NBA
mhm.
career. But Doug, what do you think of the celebrity wing, and I guess B, regardless of how you feel on the celebrity wing, Dennis Rodman's inclusion in it, if you're going to have one?
I think the celebrity wing, I get it, but I think it's also silly. But I think it's more silly than like the moment, or WrestleMania moment, or award, whatever we were just talking about. I already forgotten what it's called.
The
That
immortal
insignificant,
moment.
yeah, that the immortal moment. But I have to say, if we're talking folks who should legitimately belong in the Hall of Fame, the celebrity wing, it would be Rodman because at least
Yeah,
I mean, NWO, the dude. If the dude walked out, didn't walk out, but skipped practice to go to Nitro, you know,
yeah.
for the NBA Finals practice, he skipped it and showed up on Nitro. That's a pretty boss. That's an NWO move right there.
For those who might be our younger viewers, if you're not familiar with Rodman other than his celebrity post his career, he was a major crossover star during WCW's NWO era, which was the era when WCW managed to beat WWF in the ratings, which no one
Right.
thought was possible at the time. And a lot of that, you have to give credit for Dennis Rodman. He helped bridge mainstream sports and wrestling in the late 90s. He brought huge mainstream publicity. And as
Mhm.
Doug just said, right in the middle of the playoffs, he skipped practice to show up for WCW. Um, Doug, like you. The celebrity wing seems like a dumb thing overall. And there has been certainly celebrities who have been inducted sheerly for the fact that they've had a relationship with WWE through the years. They show up, they wave, whatever at Raw.
Mhm.
Very few of them, the folks that have had um, a induction into the Hall of Fame celebrity wing, very few of them actually participated in the ring. And if they did, it might have been for one
Well,
celebrity.
right.
And Rodman, was around for less matches than promos, but he still had 4 pretty high profile matches and was
Mhm.
associated with the NWO. So I'm kind of with you. If you're going to have a celebrity wing, Dennis Rodman is certainly a more legitimate candidate for that wing than a majority of celebrities that they've shoehorned in there in the past.
I mean, Rodman, I think, is a perfect example of why you do bring in a celebrity to get the eyes that may not necessarily be on the product, especially with like the Rodman. What is it here? Rodman Hogan versus Carl Malone and
Diamond
DDP.
Dallas Page and Carl
Yeah,
Malone. For all of our inductees tonight, I was going to talk best matches or notable moments. I don't remember another Rodman match. I know he
right.
ended up with like four, I believe, but that one, they were, because Carl Malone was on the other side, another NBA
Hmm.
star at the time. They were on Leno. They were everywhere with this Bash at the Beach, 1998, and it was not a great match, but it was a very passable match. And Dennis Rodman certainly, even though he was controversial in his NBA career, that controversial bad boy aesthetic that he had legitimately fit perfectly with what WCW was trying to do with the NWO. It wasn't like you were um, turning Pat McAfee heel or something. I mean, you were like legitimately taking somebody who had
Hmm.
this same general vibe and just, I mean, connecting dots to bring attention to your product. So I say for me, my verdict would be, yeah, Dennis
Oh yeah,
wasn't my
yeah.
favorite celebrity of all time in wrestling, but he's deserving of a celebrity induction if you're going to do them.
I agree. I think. I mean, yeah, deserving of the celebrity induction. To let yes, as much as am, I want to say I'm indifferent to this too, but I think I disdain the celebrity wing more than
Yeah,
I'm indifferent to it. But
yeah,
very
yeah. I'm
deserving.
with you.
Does exactly what he did. Exactly what a celebrity is supposed to do in wrestling, which is bring more eyes to the product. Um. So yeah,
Two thumbs
he
up from the
gets.
two bros on this one.
Yep.
Doug, I want to go to. I've kind of got these tiered in
Okay.
what I think is the appropriate order of how these. I know they'll probably spread some of the bigger ones around, but I want to save the two big ones to last. And I hate to say that there are some inductions that are more worthy than others, but we all know that WWE structures these things to think in terms of who is the headliner this year. So they even
Hmm.
think of it as there's somebody above the rest. One of the members going in posthumously, we talked about him a little bit last week, and that is into, I guess, if you're an old timer or you're in the wrestling's past and you're no longer with us, or a lot of your work was done outside of WWE, you probably are headed for the legacy wing of the Hall of Fame. I'm
Hmm.
not sure how they make some of these distinctions, but
Right.
other than you're no longer with us. But Bad News Brown is who I would like to
Yes.
talk about next, Doug. He was, as I mentioned last week, an Olympic judo bronze medalist. As a pro
Hmm.
wrestler, he was one of wrestling's earliest tweeners, and behind the scenes, he was known as a legit tough guy, having survived training from Antonio Inoki in New Japan, and then went to the dungeon and survived Stu Hart. So you don't do those two things without being legitimately tough.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Right. Yeah. You're. Yeah.
he was an influence for later edgy lone wolf type characters. He was known for his anti-hero persona. Um, I don't know, Doug. What are your memories? Let's talk memories
So
of Bad
this is
News.
weird because I read about him and it's one of those things I should remember more about Bad News Brown than I actually do, but I can't recall a single match of his. And now I know there was a time very early on I didn't have access to the WWE for a while. When I was younger, it was always like the Mid South, the Turner Broadcasting Wrestling, the more the WCW stuff, the Jim Crockett Promotions things. But I cannot actually remember any Bad News Brown. Uh, uh, I'm looking at. I mean, I see he was a four-time Stampede North American champion.
Right. We wouldn't
He
have seen
won.
any of that stuff back in the
No,
day.
looks like one of the big accolades was he was a WrestleMania 4 Battle
Four
Royal
Battle Royal
winner.
Rumble. So that I
Yeah,
remember. I remember him winning WrestleMania 4, which, as you said, that's why you should, because you remember WrestleMania
yeah.
3, which we talked about earlier.
Well,
So, or
yeah.
maybe in hindsight, right?
Hmm.
It's almost as if we were there. Were you getting WWF at the time of WrestleMania 3, or was all of that more
No,
reading the
no.
magazines? So you still
It
didn't
was
have.
just, yeah.
So it's very conceivable that a wrestling fan who was only able to catch certain broadcasts, which I know has to be shocking again to our younger viewers, is like just
Right.
pull it up on YouTube. No, we used to have to read about this stuff in magazines. So there were a lot
Hmm.
of territories. I knew all about Stampede Wrestling. I never saw Stampede Wrestling until
Hmm.
the '90s, probably when I started seeing clips, or later on when we had the WWE Network and you could go watch some of this stuff. So I was getting WWF, so I do remember his WrestleMania Battle Royal win. I also think about his when I talk about my own personal memories. The only feud I can remember was probably around that same time in WWF, and that was his. He had a feud with Bret Hart that
Oh.
comes to mind. I don't remember any of the matches, so I can't say what my favorite matches are. I did first see him though in the territories. I remember him as Bad News Allen, and I don't know if it was Mid Atlantic
Hmm.
or what. And I know we've talked before, even though we're only we're I'm slightly older than you, but having
Oh God.
a year over you, but maybe a couple years over you when
Right.
it comes to access
Yeah,
to
that's
different
accurate.
promotions.
Yeah.
It's a funny how many different things you can see in that short period of time that one person will remember that the other one doesn't. So my memories aren't great of Bad News, but even based on what I know about him and have read about him, this one would be one that I would have to say is a bit of a stretch for me. And I don't mean to besmirch the legacy of anyone who thinks that Bad News Brown is worthy. I don't have a problem that he's being put in, but if I was making these decisions, he is not someone that would have been on my short list for legacy induction.
Yeah, not on the short list because again, I have next to no memories of his in-ring action, but reading about him, because it does sound like he was a pioneer of that, that tweener character that, the lone wolf who would not join Hill or face no factions. Of course, I love a great faction. So I don't know. If the man truly was that no nonsense, stone cold tweener type, is not a baby face, not a heel, then sure. I don't have a problem with this, but it doesn't excite me. It doesn't upset me. I'm neutral on this one, much like I am the whole uh, iconic, what is it, immortal moment thing. More neutral on it than anything, I guess.
So not a thumbs down, just a shrug.
Yeah, you get meh. I mean,
Well, and where this is the legacy wing, I guess maybe that is the spot for all the.
sure,
It's either people that have been gone so long that
right.
your modern fans don't remember. Um, Posthumous, so they're not there to give a long induction acceptance speech. It's probably a family member that's going to get a brief amount of time to get up there. So it's not like
Hmm.
they're going to take a lot from the program. So I mean, it really is no harm. Even though I would probably vote, this would be the one that I would be probably voting thumbs down on, but it's not a strong thumbs down. Um, the next one that we're going to move to is also the legacy wing. And I know that Doug and I both will have memories of this individual, and anyone who grew up watching the Attitude Era of wrestling is going to remember Sid Eddie, also known as just Sid or Psycho Sid
Psycho
or
Sid.
Sid Vicious,
Sid
depending
Vicious.
on
Yep.
where he was. He is a two-time WWF champion. He is a two-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He was one of the more imposing big men that was wrestling in the '90s. Obviously, if you watched '90s pro wrestling, no matter which side of the fence you watched, you were going to see Sid as a main eventer. He was known for his intensity, his kind of off the wall promos. He was not a great in ring worker. Let's just be honest. He was your typical big man of the era. His power bomb finisher was maybe one of the first power bombs I can really remember,
Hmm.
and obviously with his height, it always looked devastating. Doug, do you do you have any matches that you remember? I have a couple that stand out to me
You know,
when it comes to Sid.
it's sad because I'm
I know
reading.
where you're
Okay,
going with it before matches.
that's that
I
it.
know where you're going to go with it.
The thing I remember most about Sid is when he's just snapped his shin in ring, and you could see it go through the boot. He
Ah,
comes off. Wait, I don't even think he was on the top rope. Maybe he was on the middle rope
second
because he's a
row. I
big.
think it was
So,
second
yeah,
row. Yeah.
so he's a big dude. Comes off. I don't know. He's going to do some sort of axe handle thing or so. I don't even remember who he was wrestling, but I remember that WCW showed it over and over and over from every possible angle they could to get it out there and just get it on TV. And uh, it's
Yeah, I
just such
know.
a vicious break. That is what I remember about Sid Vicious more than anything. Any kind of feuds. Yeah, I'd even forgotten. I find this that when I'm researching Sid that he was in the Four Horsemen. I'd forgotten
Yeah.
that. I just remember that snap in that shin.
So when it comes to best matches, I don't know that Sid had any best matches. Again,
Right, right.
I'm just being frank here that Sid Vicious was not a great in ring worker. Now, did he have notable matches? Absolutely. I remember his Survivor Series 96, I believe it was, match with Shawn Michaels. And then very much remember his match with The Undertaker because it headlined WrestleMania
It's
13
13.
and
Yeah.
is often considered one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. So
Mhm.
notable for maybe not all of the best reasons, but yes, Doug, like you, when I think of Sid, the brutal broken leg he suffered is the first thing that I think of. It happened on live TV. He jumped from the second rope, had a gruesome compound fracture of his left tibia and fibula. The mental image
Mm.
of that leg facing the wrong way is still one of the more brutal things I've ever seen on a live wrestling show. And as you said, they repeated it,
Over and
over
over.
and
We're
over
back
again.
from commercial. Tony Schiavone. We're back from commercial break, and hey, look at this.
It effectively ended his career too, as it required
Yeah.
a 17-inch rod to correct, and so that pretty much was
Mhm.
it for Sid. Um, I, I, like I said, matches. I had those two listed, and then memories. Obviously, you'd already talked about one, but there was one other memory I was going to bring up. Is there any other memories that you have of Sid before I get
Yeah.
into this? Because once I do, you're going to go, oh yeah.
So the only other memory I think I have of Sid is it like somebody from like a news show where he not beats them up, but like smacks them around
Uh,
because he's mad.
you're
Am
thinking
I-
of Dr. Death, David Schultz.
That's right. That's right. See, I get that confused. So that's
So this will let me jog your memory. Backstage incident with Arn Anderson. Okay. So if
no,
you
no,
don't
no.
remember this,
Okay.
supposedly it was an argument that took place in a hotel bar. Surprise, surprise, alcohol was involved, and supposedly was over Ric Flair. So after the
Oh,
argument in the hotel bar, Sid went to Arn's hotel room with a apparently a leg of a chair that I guess he was going to beat him with. They ended up in a physical altercation where Sid stabbed Arn more than 20 times with a
what?
pair of scissors, stabbed with scissors in his chest and in his arm. Arn, I guess, managed to either get it from him or what, but Sid was also stabbed about 4 times, way less than the reverse. Because Sid was the aggressor, basically, Too Cold Scorpio was given credit for breaking up the fight, possibly saving Arn's life. Sid was fired immediately after the incident, and Arn was suspended um, because he was not the aggressor in the incident. But that is the other memory. So I
Wow.
have I have two prominent memories that I first think of when I hear the name Sid Vicious, neither of which are positive. At to I don't think anything positively about his in-ring career, his promo abilities, or anything. I think of two things that I'm sure that Sid would have rather us forget.
Yeah. So
I know. Now we have to come to a verdict. That all that said, and not all of it positive. I can't say that he doesn't earn a place just because. I mean, the Hulk Hogan's of the world obviously are in any Hall of Fame for just being attractions. Sid was an attraction. He was
Sid
a
was an
big
intro.
star in the 90s. So just based on that, not his ability, I would say that, yeah, if you're going to just be inducting big names, he was a big part of 90s professional wrestling.
He did main event a WrestleMania with The Undertaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Even
I
if it
mean,
was a match that didn't maybe deserve to be on last.
right?
I think that was the same WrestleMania that also had Ric Flair versus Randy Savage on it. That was stole that show and should have
Yeah.
probably headlined, but
Hmm.
didn't. But yeah, I mean, we're talking personal memories. Obviously, you and I both think of the broken leg, but we
Yes.
have other memories of watching Sid during the '90s. I can't say I was ever a fan. I don't think you were either.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
So what do you do with someone you're not personally a fan of? I again not excited about this induction, but I can't argue with the fact that he probably belongs as just on star
Yeah.
quality.
Again, this is, I think, one where I'm pretty much indifferent about this because if we're talking about a wrestling legacy, it's not John Cena, it's not The Undertaker, but I mean, even The Miz has, a WrestleMania main event. So
Miz will
someday,
make the Hall of Fame. Mark my words,
so,
Miz will one
so,
day get in.
someday Miz will be in the Hall of Fame, and we'll be talking about how Mike Mazzani or whatever his name is has been a excellent professional, and we can't say the same about
Longevity.
Sid. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We can't. Miz is never going to stab anybody 20 times, or maybe he is. Who
Arn
knows?
Anderson, come on, man. It's Arn
I
Anderson
know,
too.
right? So,
Um,
I,
yeah.
sure. I mean, I'm indifferent, but for the star power that he was in the '90s, and yeah,
So Duckett, you haven't ex-nayed anyone yet. You've just been
I haven't.
indifferent thus far.
I mean, overall, until we get to on up this card, I'm pretty indifferent towards this class in this Hall of Fame.
Well, let us go then to the next inductees, and that would be Axe and Smash of Demolition. Let's go through the resume. They are three-time WWF Tag Team Champions. They had the longest reign of their era, as we talked about a few weeks back when they were announced. It was eventually broken by the New Day. They defined 1980s tag team wrestling with their power-based style, at least WWE tag team wrestling during the 80s. They had an iconic look about them. Um, Notable matches, I would say the Hart Foundation. They had a really good, memorable feud with Hart Foundation. They had a 2 out of 3 falls match, SummerSlam 1990, that ranks among my favorites. They had a really good match on Saturday night's main event with the Brainbusters. And then they had
Yeah.
a fairly memorable match at WrestleMania 6 as well. But really, that Hart Foundation match and the Brainbusters match, which, by the way, for NWA fans who might go Brainbusters, why does that ring a bell? It's Arn and Tully. So, yeah, you're going to have a good match with Arn and Tully.
Hmm.
But still, they held up their end. Doug, I know, again, we're talking 80s WWF, so your memories
I
might
mean,
differ slightly
right?
because
Because
I see it.
I should have been able to catch the Saturday night main event, but to me, Axe and Smash, were like Timo, like Road Warriors for me. It's like
Yep.
bargain bin, like Road Warriors is what these guys were for me. Like at the
At
time,
the
and
time.
you're
See, at
right,
the
right.
time, yeah, the same thing. So at the time, all territory guys would end up in WWF and usually get repackaged. And that's what happened to these two. And when they got repackaged, they became Road Warrior ripoffs because WWF did not have the Road Warrior, so they had Demolition.
Hmm.
At the time, because of that, I hated them. I did
Hmm.
just thought, okay, this is watered down Road Warrior. In retrospect, I can say that I appreciate them more now than I did at the time because it wasn't like wrestling promotions didn't do versions of other promotion stars.
Right,
The Midnight
right.
Rockers
That's fair.
were obviously a ripoff of the Rock and Roll Express, but still Marty and Shawn Michaels were pretty darn good. What
Hmm.
is Goldberg but WCW's version of the bald-headed black trunks, Stone Cold
Hmm.
Steve Austin? And then, of course, WWE famously gave us DX after the NWO. So I can't necessarily fault Demolition for being ripoffs, although as a child, that's all I saw was
Yes,
You're not the
same.
Road Warriors.
Yeah.
Doug, I'm going to now again. I know I don't ever want to exaggerate the age difference, but sometimes I think I did see a little bit more earlier.
Yes, I think
So
so.
I'm going to throw a
Absolutely.
couple of things at you that
Okay.
maybe, if you haven't looked into it, you might remember Demolition before, because I said all the territory guys would go,
Hmm.
and eventually, if you were a big enough star, WWF would get you and would repackage you. I first knew Axe, whose real name was Bill Eddy, as the masked superstar or just superstar in Georgia Championship Wrestling. He would have been probably next to Mr. Wrestling #2, maybe one of the very first masked wrestlers that I ever saw. He was
Hmm.
famous at the time for doing the walking the top rope gimmick that the Undertaker would later
Old
steal.
school.
Do
Yeah.
you remember the masked superstar or
I
no?
don't remember the Masked Superstar. Mr. Wrestling #2, yes, but
So you don't remember Bill Eddy. Okay. I was wrong on that one.
mm-mm.
I'm going to be right
No,
on
no.
Smash. So Smash was, so there was another Smash before. There was Axe, and maybe it wasn't Smash, but there was another original member of Demolition, but he was gone pretty quickly. And then Smash took over, who was Barry Darso. And that was the popular incarnation of Demolition.
Hmm.
He was first on my radar as part of the extended family of Ivan and Nikita. Do you remember
Okay.
Crusher? You remember Crusher Khrushchev?
Crusher Khrushchev. Yes.
That is
Yes.
Smash. So there we go.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
I was 1 for 2 with you on knowing who they
Yes.
were
Yeah,
in
Crusher
their
Khrushchev.
territory days
Yes.
because you were watching
Yes.
Mid Atlantic. Yeah, that
Hmm.
same guy. He was Crusher Khrushchev back in the day before he became Smash.
Okay. All right. And I see here there was actually a third member that utilized some free road rules, like a
Yeah,
dude named Brian Adams. Is this right? Or is this
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
in the 90s or
It's
around
kind
the
of like the
1990?
extended NWO where like, oh yeah, or like you said earlier, Sid was in the Four Horsemen. That's not the Four Horse. Yeah,
Yeah.
the classic version of Axe and Smash Demolition was definitely Bill Eddy and Barry Darso. And again, at the time they were just Road Warrior ripoffs, but I liked the Masked Superstar. I liked Crusher Khrushchev. They actually were pretty good workers for big men at the
Hmm.
time. They had some memorable matches. It was WWF tag team wrestling in the 80s when you had the British Bulldogs and the Brain Busters, and then
Hmm.
shortly thereafter, in comes the Hart Foundation, and Demolition was part of that revival of tag wrestling during the that one boom era in the Hulkamania years. And I'm actually okay for this one, even though you couldn't convince my 13-year-old self that I would ever think
Yeah.
of this as anything other than Road Warrior Light.
Yeah, because still in my brain, I want to say, I mean, I'm really indifferent towards this one as well. I mean, I don't have anything against them, although, like, my 12-year-old brain had them as Road Warriors live.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's they were just like team of Road Warriors to me, and it's hard to shake that. Although a little bit more respect since Smash was Crusher Khrushchev, but still, I'm just like
All right.
meh.
All right. You're going to say no to this too, since you don't really remember them as a team, but so you don't remember their and I put it in quotes, their iconic theme song either, right?
No,
Uh, Here comes the
no.
axe. Here comes the smasher. Demolition, the walking disaster. No, no. Oh, it was.
No.
I mean, we definitely have come a long way. Let's just say that when it comes to WWE's original songs, some of them, like "Sexy Boy" and things, are so
Mm.
bad they're kind of good now. The
Yes,
Demolition
yes,
theme
they're
song, maybe go listen to it and see if you think that one has turned the corner to be so bad it's good. But that was something else that I disliked about them at the time.
uh, no.
Which brings us to, I think, who might go on last as the headliner. But I am putting her next in our conversation because I think, for me anyway, and I think I don't want to speak for you, Doug. I think you're probably going to agree with me. Again, I'm repping here and the bias showing, but let's save AJ for last. Let's talk Stephanie McMahon first, okay?
So here's the thing. I think she is going to be the headliner. Everything
Yeah.
I've found keeps pointing to her being the headliner, which I think should be AJ. Let me just straight up get that. I mean, I'm repping Thundering Hood football tonight, but my heart's with AJ because
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, this one I don't understand because Stephanie didn't revolutionize women's wrestling. Stephanie, I don't dislike Stephanie. I just don't understand why now. Why a Hall of Fame? I don't understand what this is for. I don't understand this.
Okay. So now
Yes.
I think that might are you leaning thumbs down on this one?
Yeah. Oh, I'm totally leaning thumbs down on Stephanie.
Okay.
It's not a she does not belong. She does not belong yet. No,
So
I don't understand why and why now.
going through some of the accolades, and then I want to disagree with you. So I think this is good. We finally have a disagreement.
Okay. All right.
Um, and you finally have someone you don't want in because I was letting I was the one. Sorry, bad news, but um, yes, Stephanie has a famous father and husband who you may be familiar with, but obviously those who've seen Stephanie from the beginning, she literally grew up in the business, was on TV at an early age, as Vince loved to use his family for story fodder. Obviously, she's going in not really as a wrestler, but we should note when talking her accolades, she did have matches, and that talking accolades, she is a one-time WWF
She
Women's
is. Yeah.
Champion. Her on-screen fame was really less about her in-ring, obviously, and more her on-air authority figure central to the attitude and ruthless aggression eras of wrestling.
Hmm.
But even more than just being the boss's daughter or an on-screen character, I feel like she's being rewarded for her behind-the-scenes roles, or as much, I should say, not solely. It's
Hmm.
both the on and behind the screens. But she did share her father's acumen for the business, and I'll say that she's probably not recognized enough for that work that she did behind the scenes because I truly think she has had as much influence on modern pro wrestling, whether or not you think it's a good influence or not, if you're watching this. But she has, just like her father had, she's had an outsized influence on modern pro wrestling and probably more so than any woman in the history of the business. Um, yeah, because I mean, she was kind of the architect of WWE's global brand expansion as a former chairwoman and co-CEO. I agree with you that she maybe gets too much credit for pioneering the
I
role
mean,
of women in wrestling. Although I will say that her leadership or executive leadership probably allowed women's wrestling to become more equal in WWF, and she probably fought some battles there that were pretty tough at the time. So as far as bringing it to the mainstream WWF audience, I think that yeah, she probably did have a lot to do with that.
maybe she did, but I think WWE often oversells what she did for women's wrestling as, it's like Stephanie invented women's wrestling. I mean, just going back to our show last week, I don't think Stephanie was on either one of our Mount Rushmores of women's wrestling.
She was not. She was not.
So, you know, and I do not disagree that Stephanie has had a major influence in
As an
wrestling,
executive.
just like
Yeah, as an executive.
just as an executive, absolutely. And Triple H and Stephanie are my favorite, power couple of all time in professional wrestling. I just don't think that it's not Stephanie's time. I don't understand why they throw this out now, and it's
Do you have any
I don't know.
match memories of her
No,
from her time in the ring?
no.
The
I
feud she had
remember
with
more.
Trish. Do you
I
remember the feud
remember
she had with
more
Trish?
Stephanie's like wrestling, not really moments, but her marrying Triple H in a Las Vegas drive-through, you
Yeah.
know ruining the marriage of Stephanie and Tess. These are my early memories of Stephanie, which I thought were great. The whole thing with Stephanie and Triple H that turned into much more of an angle, and I really do enjoy that real life story
Yeah.
and how like art imitates life and all that. But I just
For matches,
it's
I do think of
matches.
her. with Trish Stratus with No Way Out in 2001. I also think of more recently WrestleMania 34 when she and Triple H teamed up to take on Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. Again,
Hmm.
not a 5-star classic, but a memorable attraction match on the WrestleMania card. But like you, when I think of Stephanie, my first thought of Stephanie, of course, the Attitude Era stuff, her on-screen character more than the back. I mean, obviously, we don't see the
Hmm.
behind the scenes, but on-screen,
Right,
I
right, right.
think of that wedding to Tess that was all soap
Hmm.
opera that went awry with Triple H marrying her in Vegas by drugging her or something that we probably couldn't get away
Right.
with at the time. But years before they became a real couple too. I also think of her work, and I'm sure you will, as soon as I say it, you'll think the same. But the Helmsley McMahon era, where she was
Oh
the
yeah.
punching bag of Chris Jericho, like as the foil
Hmm.
for Chris Jericho, I thought was good stuff. Then there's also that memorable feud between Vince and the Ministry of Darkness that led to a very young Stephanie. You know, you're laughing because
Being
we also
crucified.
they crucified her on live television on the Undertaker symbol, which looked a whole lot like a Christian cross. By the way, I forgot to say Happy Easter to everyone out
Oh
there.
yeah. Right.
Maybe it's the wrong time to bring it up after the crucifixion of Stephanie McMahon, but still, yeah. Also, for better or worse, I think she's going to be remembered on screen anyway, storyline wise, as the owner of ECW and the botched invasions
Oh
when she
yeah.
merged ECW with her brother's WCW to fight against
Yes.
her dad in WWE. Not good stuff, but memorable.
Yeah. Now I do think Stephanie definitely deserves a spot before Shane
Yeah.
in a Hall of Fame, and I figure
Even
that's
though he had a
eventually
lot more
coming.
matches and a lot more memorable matches, I do think that
Hmm.
I have no problem with Stephanie. Actually, I think that probably one of the few McMahons that I don't have a whole lot of problems with. And do think that she probably, with both the on-screen role and all the memories we just talked about, all very memorable on-screen, and then you take the brand work she's done as an executive, and I'm fine for her being there.
I I just think not yet. Not yet. Somebody I don't know who, so don't ask me who because I don't know who. I don't have a name to throw out, but I'm just not
Linda. He
Stephanie.
wanted
Not yet.
Linda. He said Linda's time is next.
Linda's too busy dismantling our education system. So she can't be inducted to the Hall of Fame yet.
Uh,
But keeping politics out of it,
yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Actually, yeah, she stepped away. Maybe that's something we should mention too. She literally resigned when her father came back. So I kind of give her
mhm.
maybe I'm giving her too much credit for what that might actually mean. But I do think that showed some integrity on her part to not have any part of her father's return to the business.
I'll say this: Stephanie should be a yes for a Hall of Fame, but in my book, she's not a yes right now.
Fair enough. We have a disagreement. It's well, I guess we had a little disagreement over Bad News Brown, and that I remembered him and you did not. So it's like, all right, whatever. This next guy, Doug, if we disagree over this, this will be the last episode of the Two Bros Wrestling Show. Is all I'm saying. Because
I'm sure we're both in agreement that this man deserves no Hall of Fame,
no,
absolutely ever.
absolutely, we're in agreement. Um, gosh, it is one of the reasons I will say I am going to WrestleMania weekend. I don't know that if I stipulate that during this particular broadcast, if you haven't watched our prior broadcast, I will be in Vegas giving a full rundown post mortem once I get back, and that will include the Hall of Fame. I don't know that I would have bought tickets to the Hall of Fame as if it were not for AJ's induction. AJ Styles is one of the greatest in-ring performers ever. His success spans not just across the decade he spent in WWE, but also in TNA and New Japan and Ring of Honor. He was Mr. TNA. As Doug, you and
Yes,
I
he
talked about
was.
when we did our TNA show, he was the reason to
Mr.
watch
TNA.
TNA
Yes.
wrestling at the time. As far as accomplishments, he's a two-time WWE champion. He's a Grand Slam Triple Crown winner. In total, he's had more than 30 championships across a 28-year career. Other titles being a two-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, a three-time NWA World Champion, a two-time TNA World Champion, a six-time TNA X Division Champion. Obviously known for his elite athleticism and just his match consistency worldwide and through the entirety of those 28 years, from beginning to end. You knew that if AJ was on the card, you were going to see a 3-star match at least, and with the
At
ability
least.
to pull out a 5-star.
Absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
best matches, Doug. Unlike everybody else who we've talked about, even those that I thought were deserving, there aren't a lot of like great workers on this in this particular class. AJ has been so good for so long; it's hard to narrow down best performances
It
because he
really,
spent the last decade in WWE. I want to put at least one WWE match, but when I made my list, most of them were pre WWE, pre the last 10 years.
so,
But I will say
so
John
there's,
Cena match, the match he had at Royal Rumble with Cena is probably my
yeah.
favorite WWE match that AJ had.
Yes, that was a great match. For me, the AJ Styles match, and I don't have it written down of what Wrestle Kingdom it
10,
was.
ten,
Thank you. With Shinsuke, I mean
my all-time favorite.
that is it. That is the pinnacle. That is the peak of professional wrestling, which I was so excited when AJ and Shinsuke were both in WWE, but they've never came close to that.
And that bar is almost too
Never.
high for anyone to ever climb, right? Because that's an
It really
all-timer right there.
is.
Um,
And so much TNA that I mean AJ was TNA, but
so
for me it's that New Japan, and we haven't even mentioned that AJ was a leader of Bullet Club too.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. I need to pack my Bullet Club shirt too for
yeah,
um Samoa Joe. The match he had with Samoa Joe at Turning
yeah.
Point in 2005 may be the greatest TNA match of all time. Um, AJ versus Samoa Joe versus Christopher Daniels at Unbreakable 2005 is often considered the greatest triple threat in wrestling history. And then the matches he had in TNA with Kurt Angle, multiple matches throughout 2009 and 2010, all of them great. Um, and then, of course, Shinsuke. That's my all-time favorite as well.
Yes,
I know I only had the one WWE match, but heck, from the last
it's
year, what was the match when he and John rolled it back? I mean, that match was one of the best matches of
mhm.
2025. So it's not like he didn't still have good matches when he got to WWE. He's just been so good for so long.
So
Um,
good yeah,
where did you
yeah.
first
I
see
mean,
him? Do you
TNA,
remember
TNA.
TNA?
I remember TNA. I don't remember. I remember a very long time ago. We were in Orlando at
Yes,
a TNA. Was AJ on the card that night?
yes, he was.
Because the thing I remember about that was Sanjay Dutt and Abyss. I think stuck out to me more than any, and maybe the Alpha Male Monty Brown
Oh
going
yeah.
way back there.
Oh yes, that's old school
But
TNA.
but very much AJ was. I remember AJ in TNA, and
So unlike a lot of folks, because I was one of the few still watching WCW at the very, very end, and certainly if you weren't watching WCW at the end, even if you were, you're watching Nitro and Thunder. You weren't watching
right,
WCW Saturday Night. But my first memory of AJ is seeing him, and I think the Amazing Red both were in the same match uh, on WCW Saturday Night, um, literally 2 weeks before they went off the air. He was very babyface, obviously looking back then,
hmm,
doing moves though I had never seen anyone do, even at that
uh
time,
huh,
including the first time I remember seeing the Styles Clash was that WCW appearance. And then I remember in Ring of Honor, the great matches against Samoa Joe there, Brian Danielson there, others in Ring of Honor. And then, as Doug, you mentioned, you and I saw him a couple of times
hmm,
when TNA would tour in West Virginia or
right.
down there in Orlando too. He was a flagship for them. If he ended his career in TNA alone, I'd still say he deserves induction into the
Yeah.
WWE Hall of Fame. And then we went through his best matches already, but I'll add to my memories his debut at Royal Rumble, because just how surreal it was to see Mr.
Hmm.
TNA, the biggest star in New Japan and Ring of Honor, the guy you never thought WWE would take a chance on, actually being accepted by WWE and treated as a big star, making that appearance at Royal Rumble was kind of surreal. And then for all his great 5-star matches, he never really had that big Mania match, that big 5-star Mania moment. But I will say that the Boneyard match that he had with The Undertaker is often considered the best cinematic wrestling match during that era, that post-COVID era of gimmick matches. And even though I'm not a fan of that, I understand why they had to do those things. It is notable. Right. It was entertaining, and certainly something that, all of us remember. So bottom line, Doug, let's bottom line it. Thumbs down from both of us.
Of course. I mean, the audacity of WWE to put this man anywhere near a Hall of Fame. Come on.
You either put him on last because he is the true main eventer, or you put him on first while everyone's still awake because it's going to be a really long night, and do the Paul Heyman thing and put him on first. And that way people can leave if they don't want to stick around for anybody else.
And maybe that's why I'm a little sour about Stephanie being in the Hall of Fame this year. Because, again, I don't disagree that she belongs there. But, I say not this year because she will, everything I'm seeing points to her being a headliner, and that should be AJ. And maybe that's why I'm more sour about Stephanie than Stephanie actually being in there. But
one of the greatest of all time, and excited to be able to see his induction. But yes, two thumbs up.
You are. Yes, absolutely.
The Two Bros Wrestling Show. And for that, Doug, let's hit our big finish of the week. Botch of the week. We might be on the same page with this one. I don't know. I just have a feeling it might be.
There are so many people that could have been on the other end of Randy Orton's phone.
Yep.
So many people that make so much sense.
Preach.
But, and I didn't realize this till earlier today when I was watching some YouTube wrestling videos, just getting caught up on a few other things and some news. Ari Emanuel, Mr. TKO, also Pat McAfee's agent. So and also the man who said he's going to make him the next Sylvester Stallone. And well, golly, this is a great way to kick that off. I mean, this was a botch from head to toe. This was ridiculous. It was not good. TKO
was not good.
TKO, I mean, this is like Rock getting involved in nonsense in WrestleManias of the past. Now we've got Pat McAfee injecting himself because somebody in TKO thought it was a good idea. Yeah.
So let's talk about that part of it because, okay, this is my botch too. Let's have this as the discussion. I would not have thought of Pat as the voice in Randy Orton's head, first of all.
No.
It is not needed for this feud. They have 20 years of backstory. It was going just fine without this twist. You're mentioning Ari, that's the reports that this was a decision against the wishes of WWE's creative team. It was actually TKO's meddling, saying that many said that it was TKO had Ari because, like I said, he's his agent. Thinking that Pat's involvement would bring eyes and mainstream attention, that ESPN crossover and all of that stuff. Now, here's where it gets a little trickier. There are some outlets even reporting that Pat's wrestling was better back in the Attitude Era promo was his own doing. He was off script. And then that showing their displeasure, WWE Creative, who are not happy that they're having TKO interference, sent Cody out there in that fiery promo alluding to higher ups behind the scenes and comparing Pat's insertion into this feud as Disco Inferno being added to the NWO, that was a shoot. And that Cody was given permission to just go out there and riff whatever he wanted to fire back at TKO's meddling. We all could be being played by this.
That's so true.
That this is all, it seems like so Vince Russo that you're going to do something early in the show. You're going to react to how badly people handle it by going on later in the show and going off script a second time. They could be getting us all to talk, which is obviously working, but I still didn't like it.
I didn't like it. I mean, because it could have been Cowboy Bob Orton. It could have been KO.
Kevin Owens. That would make sense because of
it would have made perfect sense, right? But Pat McAfee, and I do get it. Just like we talk about Rodman at the top of the show in Hall of Fame, as celebrity, bring those people in, get more eyes on it.
The ESPN crossover, I sort of get too.
I get it, but it was just bad, And although let me just wrap this up in a nice bow because I'm going to jump straight into performer here too because I've loved, and you will rarely hear me say this, but I love Cody's counter promo, the go back out there and just shoot, the reference to like the third man in the NWO being Disco. He gets a little inside baseball there because he's talking about you know who you are because it kind
Which
of
does
swings back
bring you
around.
back to 90s
Right.
WCW, right? The Vince Russo era
Yes.
of like you go out there, and if you're inside baseball, you know what Scott
Hmm.
Steiner is really talking about or Kevin Nash is really
Right.
talking about, and you ooh and ah. So are they playing us? Are they just playing us with this and we're all actually buying into it?
If they are, I'm okay with it because right now I'm
Definitely.
saying, hey, Cody cut a great promo, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Cody, get out there and do more of that now because we all know how much I love Cody, but
It was a good promo. I give it to you. I mean, you gave him performance of the week for it. It was a good promo, and if it was WWE apologizing for what came earlier, it's odd, or it was all part of a grand plan, and at least the Cody part of it worked. I
yeah,
still
yeah,
think these two will have a good match. I just don't know that Pat needs to be involved. So I agree with you on the botch. My performance of the week, I'm also going for Cody, but for a different promo. So it's a
okay.
Cody week. As soon as Stephanie McMahon told Cody Rhodes on Raw that he was not his father, I turned to my wife and said to her that Cody needs to fire back with the same. But I just wasn't sure that WWE would be
Uh-huh.
willing to go there. And so I'm glad they did because even though it was predictable line and I'm sure Stephanie was completely fine with it. It was also a memorable one that I don't care if they throw
Hmm.
Vince under the bus. And I actually think it's cooler that maybe Stephanie did not care to go ahead and throw her father under the bus for the sake of a promo because her dad would have done it if
Oh
it was
yeah, he would have.
reversed. So
Absolutely.
I approved of all of that and thought it was well done.
So Cody for both of us.
Cody for
What is
both of us. Cody
happening?
for the win. Match of the week, Doug.
So there was a lot of good wrestling on Stand and Deliver last night, Kevin.
Oh gosh, there was.
lots
I'm
of
so
good,
glad. Yes, thank you.
lots of good wrestling. Although it takes me a lot to power through Booker T's commentary, man. It really does.
It's bad. It's bad. Yep.
It is bad. But for me, Zarya Sol Ruka. I mean, I love the Soul Catcher move so much. For me to get to see it 3 times, and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful every time. I mean, again, there was a lot of good wrestling on last night, but for me, Sol Ruka and Zarya. I hope this ties up their feud,
Yeah.
and I
So
hope.
going up, man.
Yeah, and let Saul go on and move on to the main roster, and but
She's ready.
that was it for me. Oh, she's absolutely
I'm
ready.
so glad that you mentioned the NXT because I am, as I mentioned, I'm going to Mania weekend. I am disappointed that Stand and Deliver isn't on Mania weekend as it normally is because I enjoy the NXT brand and was looking forward to seeing it. I will say that everyone on that card, all the men and women that wrestled last
Oh,
night,
yes,
they wrestled like they knew, even though it wasn't Mania weekend, this was their Mania, this was their big show, and everybody
hmm,
brought it. It was an
they
excellent
certainly
start to
did.
finish contest. I'm
Yes,
giving my favorite match also from Stand and Deliver. It's the opening match, also a women's match.
yes,
Ah,
yes. Lola Vox. Yes.
JC Jane does not get enough credit. And for there was a time she was just seen as a member of Mandy Rose's faction and was probably going to be a
Hmm.
temporary champion. She ended up being one of the longest reigning NXT Women's Champions ever, and defied a lot of expectations there. Then there's Lola Vice, who won the contest, who has also done excellent work not only in the NXT level but in the crossover with AAA.
Hmm.
She is now the first Cuban American female
Yep.
in history to hold a championship in WWE, which is notable. And then as the third party, the one that didn't win, but maybe has got the highest ceiling of all of them, and that is Layla. Oh, I'm sorry, I've just botched her name. Um, oh well,
Oh wait.
yeah.
I
Help me out.
I know Lola one. I don't know the other one.
All right.
Phone. Where's my
Kendall
Where's
Gray.
my phone? Here it
I was
is.
saying light. I was
Kendall
going
Gray.
with
There we
light
go.
over Kendall Gray. I apologize to Kendall because you might be my favorite woman in the match. Dave Meltzer, no less than Dave Meltzer this week. I don't know if you saw this, Doug. Actually called her out, saying that she is probably going to be the greatest women's wrestler that the United States have ever produced. He was comparing her to where she was in her development, being miles above Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Charlotte at similar timelines in their evolution. So
Wow.
she's basically, now he's not saying she'll be as big a star as them,
Right.
because that is a lot of intangibles. But just as far as the in-ring part of
Mm-hmm.
things, Kendall Gray is basically the female Kurt Angle. She is a NCAA wrestling
Oh
champion.
wow.
So
Okay.
she's got all, I mean, she has taken to this business really quick. There's a reason why they took the Evolve title off of her so fast, moved her to NXT. And I don't know, but I mean, it's high praise coming from no less a source than Meltzer for him to say that. But if you watch her, she has got the technical side down, and she wrestles like a Kurt
She
Angle.
definitely does.
The leg
Definitely
locks,
does.
the
Because
bringing down of the straps and things. But these three women absolutely brought it. Everyone brought it. But go watch all of Stand and Deliver. But the two matches that Doug and
yes,
I both call out here would be excellent places to start if you only watch two, because the women of NXT really are the brand right now.
they really are. You may want to watch it with the sound down and like just some cool music on in the background, just to get Booker
You
T
know
out
what
of
they
there.
need to
Because
do? They need to get a female co-commentator for,
yes,
because the female division
that
is
would be
so good,
great.
and we do need more females on at the desk in WWE. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be an excellent place to chart, because Vic Joseph is great, and I think that he
Yes.
does an amazing job considering what he has to work with. Let's get him a
Mm-hmm.
female color commentator. Would be an excellent start. Shawn Michaels, get on it.
Yes. Let's do it.
And with
All
that,
right.
we have covered the first in several editions of Two Bros Wrestling Show that are going to deal with WrestleMania topics. We will not be on next Sunday night. If you watch the live version of our show, we will not go live against the AEW pay-per-view. We will return on Tuesday, April 14th for the live
Tuesday.
edition. That is not a drill. That is Mania week, and we are going to, before I get on the plane to go to Vegas, we are going to break it down and give our
Let's
predictions
do
for
it.
all Saturday and Sunday's matches. So join us then. And until then, Doug, what should people do if you gave them any advice?
They should go watch some wrestling.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.